Perfect. Hello, welcome everybody watching online today and watching the recording in the future. Today's Let's Go Zero webinar is on greening ICT. And it's the final one of the year, so I hope everyone's looking forward to a nice break over the winter. We've got some brilliant speakers for you today who are lined up, who will go into a lot more detail than I possibly ever could imagine in ICT. So we've got John and Barry from the ICT Service at Cambridgeshire County Council, and Ali from CAE Technology Services, and Sumeet from Cisco Systems. So they will have a host of top tips and really brilliant advice for you all. But before I introduce them formally, I just wanted to give a bit of background of Let's Go Zero for those who are new to the campaign, and then also what we're looking forward to in 2024. So Let's Go Zero is a campaign for all schools, colleges and nurseries across the UK to call on the government for support and funding to get to zero carbon. We have the ambitious target of being zero carbon by 2030, which aligns with a lot of local authorities' own ambitions across the UK, as well as the government's net zero by 2050 target. And really, we are asking educational settings to join the campaign, to add their voice, to prove that this movement for change isn't going away, and that really to get to the legislated net zero by 2050 target, we need a bit more support from the government. But as you can see, there's a whole host of organisations out there who are part of the Let's Go Zero coalition, but also others that we work with who can all support you on your zero carbon journey. Something we're really excited to announce, which is sort of looking forward to 2024, is our Climate Action Advisors Network. And we have just recruited for the East and West Midlands, so our advisors for the East and West Midlands are now in place. But this will be a network of 30 regional climate action advisors across England, bringing climate action skills and knowledge to every school. And they are really there to help overcome barriers, to offer that sort of one-to-one guidance and support to school leaders and sustainability teams within schools, within multi-academy trusts. And we also want to work closely with local authorities and sort of support local authorities to expand their capacity and base while working with schools in the area. So please do get in touch with the Let's Go Zero team if you're interested in speaking to one of our advisors. We've also got an amazing competition opening in January, which is the IKEA Let's Go Zero competition. It's running for the 3rd year, opening on the 8th of January, and we're changing things up slightly, but it's all about celebrating what schools are already doing and what you hope to do. And so there are 3 set prizes for you to choose from. A sustainability swap shop, so something like the picture you can see on the screen now is one of our previous winners, and IKEA sort of helped kit it out and make it really look like a shop. And this used to be just a whole bunch of black bags and coats and everything shoved in a room. So it just makes it a lot more appealing to family and school communities to come in and use this brilliant space to swap and sort of, you know, it could be uniforms, but it could also be prom dresses or Halloween costumes, or, you know, you name it, just to create that more circular, localized economy and stop clothes going to landfill. What's also on offer is a sustainability hub and outdoor seating. But do keep your eyes peeled on the 8th of January, as this will be launched then, and you have 6 weeks to apply to kickstart climate action in your school. So that's everything to sort of look forward to in 2024, as well as so much more that we've got planned. So keep an eye on our Let's Go Zero Twitter and on our website, and please do get in touch if you have any questions. But without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our first speakers here today, John and Barry from ICT Service. So John is the head of service for the ICT Service at Cambridgeshire County Council, delivering ICT services and supports to schools. He has a huge amount of experience and knowledge in information technology and education technology, who is committed to enhancing the use of digital technologies in educational settings. His role centres around easing workload for teaching staff and providing insightful reporting for school leaders, but also on significantly enriching the learning experiences for students. Barry is the head of technical operations at ICT Service. He also brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in applying the right ICT model into schools, championing innovative solutions to achieve the right blend of technical standards and education requirements, increasing the availability to ICT and importantly, improving sustainability models, placing ICT at the centre of schools' sustainability plans. Both John and Barry believe that through the correct use of technologies, schools can reduce energy consumption, carbon emissions, cost, alongside monitoring air quality of learning spaces and improve availability of ICT for pupils and staff. So please ask loads of questions. There'll be loads of time at the end of this webinar to ask as many questions as you have, and we'll save them up and ask both John and Barry at the end. So thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen and welcome to John and Barry.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Let me just see if I can get to grips with sharing the right screen, hey? That will be a good start. Is that the right one?
Yeah, brilliant, perfect.
Yay, that's a good start. And fantastic. A warm welcome to you all. I'm really delighted that we've been invited to deliver this short presentation to discuss the work we're currently doing to help schools deliver on net zero targets. As Suzanne said, just a quick note about questions. Log them in the chat or save them in your OneNote, and we'll hopefully have time to answer them at the end of the session. Suzanne's just done a far better introduction of Barry and I than I could possibly do. So I'll just skip this slide. I think you've learned who we are, so that's fantastic. And quickly, so it's myself and Barry first. In fact, I'm going to do most of the talking because Barry's suffering with a bit of a cough and cold. And then we'll have Ali from CAE, and we'll have Sumeet from Cisco. And then we'll have questions and answers at the end. So just very, very quickly, I hope you can forgive me for this. Who are we? So we're the ICT Service. We are part of Cambridgeshire County Council, and we provide a range of complementary education technology focused services to schools, multi-academy trusts and standalone academies throughout the east of England. Whether it's data protection, helpline for support with your management information systems and technical support, to help with your ed tech equipment, whether it's new school builds or technology design and implementation services such as delivering on the DFE Connect the Classroom programme, very topical, technology assessments for students with additional learning needs, making the best use of the technology you've already got at your disposal in the classroom or the school office. We're here for everybody. So that's my elevator pitch, and I won't do that again, I promise you. Let's have a talk about net zero. Before I do go on though, yes, questions at the end. So just have a think about this. I just wanted to put this thought-provoking slide up. I hope it's thought-provoking. And just have a think about what you're actually doing. What are you doing now? Are you even thinking about integrating technology into your net zero discussions? Have you nominated your sustainability lead yet? Just have a think about this and what you might be doing, what you want to do, your aspirations across the school estate for reducing emissions, and just note all your questions down. More the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to preach, but I'm sure Suzanne would agree, and hopefully everybody would agree, that net zero targets are actually everyone's responsibility. And as a public sector organisation, the ICT Service is always challenged to deliver on net zero targets, whether it's through the supply chain, whether it's during production or packaging and delivery, and in fact, right through the lifetime of the product. So we as well, we're making our own direct, if little steps at the moment, for example, by using technology to help us reduce the number of equipment deliveries we make to schools, opting instead for direct delivery and the implementation of new devices using an appropriate management environment such as Microsoft Intune. We've replaced our diesel van with an electric model, and also, again topically, by identifying opportunities to modernise school ICT infrastructure to ensure that schools are making the very best of today's energy efficient, carbon friendlier technologies. So yes, we've also implemented a very similar solution to what we're about to show you in our offices in St Ives in Cambridgeshire. As I say, I really don't believe we should need to be pushed along this road, but with the DfE now having released its sustainability and climate change strategy last year, we at least now have a clearer idea of the expected direction of travel. For us, we wanted to give schools practical, impactful solutions to save money and reduce CO2 emissions immediately. So when we began to hear about the Department for Education's intention to fund the upgrade of network infrastructure in schools through the Connect the Classroom programme, we, and Barry especially, was the first to jump on it. And Barry began engaging with our key vendor and supplier partners about the opportunities that their solutions might bring to the table. I'm really delighted that we have representatives from Cisco and one of their key technology partners, CAE, here with us all today. So the message around making sure technology is playing a key role in your energy reduction strategies is definitely not new. What is new is the practical application of this to generate real life savings right now. So we have only managed to deliver this through our strong relationships with key vendors and suppliers. Barry especially has worked incredibly hard to bring the right people to the table, and I'm super pleased that Barry, together with representatives from Cisco and CAE and their software development team, CAE Labs, have identified refreshingly innovative solutions, which we were really keen to implement in as many of our schools as possible. We're going to tell you a little bit about this journey and the benefits it's already bringing to our schools. I will add that Barry and I can only speak for the schools where we are directly delivering the Connect the Classroom programme. I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. Even without any of the power-saving innovations through this partnership, modern computer network equipment and newer end-user devices are significantly more energy efficient than they were even 5 years ago. So a sensible asset replacement strategy is an absolute must for all schools and all multi-academy trusts. So if we just focus a little bit on the journey, so waves 4 and 5 of the DfE funded programme presented an opportunity for us to deliver upgraded network infrastructure and Wi-Fi access points into 57 schools and academies in Cambridgeshire, Norfolk and Suffolk. We've worked really closely with Cisco, Meraki and CAE, and we've implemented a solution which not only delivers on the DfE Connect the Classroom programme, but also gives schools a practical solution to help them save money and reduce CO2 emissions. We're doing this through some really clever integration of the CAE Labs Wiser Watts platform and the Cisco Meraki cloud management platform. We'll explain a little bit more in a moment. So what does our implementation in schools consist of? Out of the 57 sites we're leading on, 49 of them have seen their network infrastructure upgraded or replaced with modern Cisco Meraki switches and wireless access points to allow for reliable Wi-Fi 6 throughout their environments. All of this licensed and supported for a 10-year period. We've also ensured we've right-sized the infrastructure to provide just what's required, yes, with a little room for expansion, but cutting out needless wasted capacity. The simplest solutions are often the best. And whilst the wizardry of the back end of these solutions is obviously incredibly clever, it is by automating the power down of Meraki access points outside normal school hours, which is saving emissions and saving money. Is this really that impactful? Let me show you a couple of examples, and I will stress that this is just the very start of this journey. Okay, so what we're seeing here, this is a snippet from the CAE Labs Network Intelligence Reporting Platform. As you can see, this is an example of a single school. And let me just quickly take you through what we can actually see. So on the left-hand side, we can see energy savings. So in the last month, 64 kilowatt hours of energy has been saved. And I'll tell you how that's being done in a moment. In the middle, so this donut in the middle is showing the pound savings. So that's 33 pounds saved in the last month, last 30 days. And on the right, this is the amount of CO2 equivalent emissions, which is showing us 13 kilograms saved. So by using the CAE Labs WiserWatts platform, what we're doing is scheduling various ports on the network switches to shut down during quiet periods. The ports chosen are those delivering power over the network, power over Ethernet or PoE, to the Cisco Meraki wireless access points. I'd say this is not a particularly aggressive schedule. So what we're doing at the moment is switching off wireless access points in the school between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. So this results in approximately a 32% saving compared to having no shutdown schedule in place. So remember, that's over 30 days. That's one school. So I'll just very quickly again just show you a representation for a multi-academy trust. So again, same things. Energy savings, so 232 kilowatt hours saved for the multi-academy trust in 30 days, £118 saved in the last 30 days, and the equivalent of 49 kilograms of carbon dioxide, if you like, saved in the last 30 days. So it's slightly different, the savings here. Again, the schedule is the same between 10 at night and 6 in the morning, and we reckon that is approximately 29% of savings compared to running the same environment with no port shutdown schedule. So that is, as I say, the real start of the journey. We know actually that much more aggressive power policies can achieve a much higher percentage of savings on the wireless network. We know that we can extend the project to deliver updated network infrastructure across all Cambridgeshire schools. That's what we really want to do. We've got to secure the funding for that, obviously, but that's definitely what we want to do. We'll also be extending the power scheduling work to more devices and more areas in the school. There's also some other really clever technology from Cisco Meraki. So, for example, if we were to integrate with the school building management systems and using Cisco Meraki's air quality sensors, we can start to control the classroom environment and deliver the best opportunities for learners to learn. That also allows us to make sure that we can just deliver the power that's needed for the ventilation and heating systems when it's needed. Further, we can also integrate with some of the Cisco Meraki camera technologies to sense when areas of the schools become quiet or unpopulated. So the idea there is if the camera technologies are integrated with the CAE Labs WiserWatts platform, then we can sense when an area of the school is quiet or unpopulated, and it will automatically start to power down devices in that area. So whether that's access points or even laptop trolleys. For example, once a laptop trolley is fully charged, then we can automate the shutdown of the power to that laptop trolley and switch it back on in the morning if that's what's required. Okay, so there is an awful lot more that we can do, and the percentages that I mentioned that we were going to save of between 29 and 32%, we're sure that we can get that over 50% savings. So just a quick recap. The Connect the Classroom programme has been a pivotal step in merging modern technology with education requirements. We've already taken steps to help schools reduce emissions now, but also pave the way for further innovative educational practices. Looking ahead, we're exploring more exciting opportunities for more technological enhancements. Imagine classrooms that are not just connected, but, as I say, play an active part in delivering a suitably heated or cooled and ventilated environment, where you can feel safe in the knowledge that your network is actually set up to deliver what you need, when you need it, and where the network itself is playing an active part in reducing your energy consumption. We continue to be committed to sustainability. We're not just aiming for net zero, we really want to have a net positive impact from all of this work. Every tech upgrade and every innovation is a step towards a greener future in our minds. And I think that is it for me. Thank you very much for putting up with my very basic PowerPoint skills. Suzanne, I think it's back to you.
No, that's brilliant, John. Thank you so much. That was an absolute breadth of information. So thank you. That was really, really interesting. Sorry, I've just got some. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Ali. You've jumped ahead already. That's brilliant. So just quickly to introduce you all to Ali before he starts his presentation. Ali is the Chief Technologist Innovation at IT Infrastructure Solutions provider CAE Technology Services Limited. He has over 18 years of experience at CAE and is an expert in Cisco and Meraki solutions, and has a passion for working with CAE's customers to understand the impact of the right technology and the right approach to fit their differing needs. Ali leads the innovation and software development practice at CAE Labs, which is hyper-focused on creating Cisco-centric API integrated solutions that deliver complementary capabilities and elevate value in key Cisco priority areas, such as the Cisco networking cloud, sustainability, and ARR growth. So I'm going to hand over to Ali to explain more. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks, Suzanne, and thank you, John, obviously, for that run through. I think what I've absolutely loved seeing over the last sort of 6+ months that we've been collaborating together, specifically around sustainability, is the fact that the ICT service is kind of built in day zero decarbonisation. So rather than retrospectively going back to those schools, you've actually built it in. So as soon as those sort of DFE, CTC schools come online with their new technology, it's already decarbonising from day one and from that evening. And as you say, very much a journey. And that's what I see across all of the customers that I'm fortunate enough to work with within the education space, is that all of them are on a journey at various different sort of stages. But certainly I'm going to run through one of those other kind of customers we worked with that are on their journey around decarbonisation within their 70 schools, and how they're driving out carbon emission waste, but also equally as important is operational costs as well. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content around the work that I do within education and the team that sits behind me, certainly around decarbonisation as well. But I think just to kind of sort of set the scene, really this the Wiser Watts solution that we've been working on heavily with our both schools and college customers was very much driven by them. So it was very much kind of innovation that was driven by their experiences. We were getting approached a lot in 2021 around the increasing pressures on obviously operational costs, but also around the DfE's 2025 Sustainability Action Plan. Was there anything that we could do as a technology provider to support and help and enable them to drive down ultimately kilowatt consumption within their IT? And this really comes because a lot of infrastructure and even devices within an education setting are left on 24/7. Now, where I see it is that IT and technology within a school is very much the hearts and lungs of a school. And if we can, like the quote on screen, which I really love, if we can have influence on those individual devices that are within the classroom setting or within other areas within the campus, that's when we can ultimately try to drive further and further optimization around the power that's consumed by those devices. So you've probably seen one of these devices on screen that's shown at the moment. So these are being classrooms in corridors, but really there are absolutely hundreds of thousands of them across the UK education space in colleges and schools. And what we wanted to do is create a solution that really was able to tap into the ability to power these off when they weren't needed to deliver the curriculum during core classroom hours. So that's really where we kind of we got to where we were in the summer of 2021. We absolutely wanted to have an answer to our education customers that will keep coming to us about rising energy costs and increasing pressures around decarbonisation. So we looked to build a solution, and really this was to focus on 3 core areas. Naturally was to drive down cost and save money. Obviously some of the savings that I'll talk about shortly really could pay for additional teaching staff and support for the school. Equally about how do we actually decarbonise IT? As I say, it's very much a bedrock of most schools and colleges that I work with. How do we use that connected kind of grid, that connected platform to drive influence around the way that IT is used and the way that it consumes energy? But equally it's about just changing the sort of status quo, the mindset around IT within a school and education setting. Is that does it always actually need to be on when there's 2.5 months potentially of the year where it's not required? There's 50+% of the week where it's not serving the needs of the school around delivering the curriculum. So it was about sort of changing that mindset really when it came to IT within the education customers that we work with. And equally around kind of trying to deliver purposeful innovation, so providing this as a free capability for all our kind of public sector customers. Since we launched back in February of this year, we've had a massive drive of adoption of over 200 schools that are now, like John has touched on, saving on kilowatts and doing it, using what's already available within the education setting, so not necessarily always having to purchase to save. So something that was very fundamental to me when developing any solution for our education customers is to make it as simple as possible. Simplicity is key, I believe, to removing those obstacles and barriers in adopting sustainable outcomes. And we've obviously tapped into some of the easier, kind of quicker wins, as John touched on, and I'll be going through in a moment. So making it frictionless by design was absolutely fundamental. So what we've been able to achieve is be able to support schools and colleges to enable this capability in under 30 seconds, and really excited that last week we brought on board a number of new trusts and schools onto the platform, and already can start seeing in the dashboard those incremental savings day by day. So very much key was to make it a simple process, broken down into 3 areas: being able to discover what's already there from an infrastructure perspective at the school, be able to provide all of the automated actions to push out that power policy across all elements of the campus. And then the all-important one is there's no real point in driving change if you can't actually track and measure and report on it as part of the broader climate change action plan that the school needs to formalise. So with that, we've been working with Wrexham Council and their 70 schools for, well, I personally for about 4 years, and it's been a really exciting journey that they've been on. First, deploying the infrastructure to support a unified strategy around sustainability, but then seeing now, after them actually powering off key parts of their infrastructure every evening at 8:30 p.m, is having had that for well over a year now, seeing the change that it's driven. And I'll run through a little bit more in the details about what they've been able to achieve in year 1 of this initiative. Now, obviously, as I touched on, reporting is kind of key, and that's been reported on a lot over the last number of years, that the most difficult kind of obstacle and barrier to overcome is actually the reporting on those sustainability efforts. But we've really simplified that and made it very easy for education customers to be able to get insight into the savings, because we fully appreciate that it's not going to be IT driven necessarily. There'll be other parts of the school or college that will want to see insight into this, especially with sustainability leads that have been appointed every day now. And really, after year 1 of Wrexham Council and their schools driving this initiative, it's been really insightful to see the amount of savings they really have made. So we completed a study in the last couple of months as part of kind of capturing and summarising the October 2022 to October 2023 savings, and very, very sort of, you can see, compelling impact analysis, where over the last 12 months they've driven out 55,000 kilowatts, which is then converted to saving over £24,000 in just raw energy costs and consumption, which would otherwise have been consumed by the infrastructure, by the IT technology within their schools. And that's then produced a saving of 15 tonnes of carbon emissions that, again, otherwise would have been expended had they not taken action and looked at other ways to drive down decarbonisation. So when they then look at that over the useful life of the technology within the school, that's when it becomes even more compelling. So looking at 150 tonnes of carbon emissions over the next decade, that technology will be in situ within their 70 schools. So overall, year 1, we're powering off for 87 hours of a 168-hour week, and it's been implemented, and I'm sure John would attest to this as well, it's been implemented with no friction or feedback of teaching staff or head teachers having any challenges. They ultimately didn't know it was being powered off after the schools closed. And then collectively, huge amount of hours over a given year, over 4,500 hours where that technology isn't powered on and is driving savings. And over the last couple of weeks, we've also been working on how do we power off over the whole Christmas break, again, to get even more savings in the month of December. So on the right-hand side is a kind of a stark day and night comparison. So before the initiative, they were consuming 10,000 kilowatts within their infrastructure environment. And then after that initiative took place in October of last year, they've really, you see, driven down all that white space in the after picture. So all that energy waste that effectively has been eliminated. It's been brilliant to see. So what next? So really, that was just a year one journey. There's a huge amount of potential. I think we're only really scratching the surface of what IT can do to help and enable the sustainability leads within schools. So we're looking at 3 areas at the moment, absolutely powering off more IT. So how do we, again, remove 52% of energy waste across other areas, including other parts of the infrastructure. So that's something I'm really excited to kick off in the new year, middle of January, when we were looking at other areas that we can power off within the IT setting. Equally, using sensors, so like the one here, it's very small, very quick and easy to deploy, but gives insight and a lens into, okay, are we overheating, overcooling certain areas within the campus, and can we actually right size optimize the education setting so that we're only heating those spaces when there's actually humans in that particular classroom, as opposed to, you know, blanket kind of always on. And the last area is, again, optimizing. So how do we optimize the existing infrastructure and remove kit that might not actually be delivering any curriculum-based purpose? So this is about how do we, for example, remove infrastructure that actually never gets any transaction, never gets any use, and actually reusing that for schools that they're building at the moment, and recycle and reuse that. And last week, Cisco published a case study, a success story on Wrexham Council and their 70 schools, which I was super excited to see get finally released after working on it for some time. Definitely worth having a quick look and see the insights and savings that they're making now by driving this type of action. And I think really when it comes to action, it's about, you know, IT should absolutely be the front and center to the wider climate action plan within a school. So I definitely recommend challenging your IT team to leverage technology you might already have and be sitting on today to drive out carbon emissions, and all importantly also cost as well. So really the question to probably take away is, what is IT doing today around decarbonisation? Are they, you know, pitching in with regards to looking at and exploring new ways that the IT can operate? Because what we've found certainly over the last 2 years of R&D is there is a lot of quick wins out there to be found, and really kind of exploit when it comes to driving down decarbonisation and feeding into that climate action plan that all schools are building. I'll hand over to Sumeet for a little bit of a run through of what Cisco is doing.
Thank you, Ali. Right, you can stop sharing. I'll grab the share. Brilliant. So let me just check. Can you see that?
Yeah. Brilliant.
So thank you, Ali. I appreciate the segue into my bit. I'm going to close off the 3 speakers, if you like, with essentially a real world example. So before all of that, thank you, Suzanne and Alison, for inviting us along, certainly for allowing me the opportunity to have a quick 10-minute catch up with you and the audience, and those who'll be listening to the recording in due course, hopefully as well, to explain just how we've gone about and actioned some of this stuff. I think what you've seen from John and Barry has been amazing. Ali certainly has given you an insight into the technology, but what I'd like to do is really finish off with showing you how we've enacted that in the real world as well. Some great, strong examples, but sometimes it's good to see how that translates into an actual building. So my name is Sumeet Bhatia. I'm part of Cisco Systems. I work as Business Development Manager, and I'm part of the CTO office here in the UK and I. Part of a small team called Country Digital Acceleration, and we're all about helping accelerate and drive technology that otherwise wouldn't see the light of day because of social or economic pressures. So we co-invest with our partners to deliver this technology into the ground, both to prove but also to show that it can make a sizable difference. And part of my presentation, as I hop to the second slide, is 2 years ago, we spent some time working with the Department for Education, and you've heard some really compelling reasons why focusing down and hunkering down, if you like, into your sustainability strategy is key from a cost-saving perspective. But Sustainability means a lot of things to many different people, and we really wanted to focus and understand what that could possibly mean for the education sector. So a lot of time was invested working with the DFE to really compartmentalize what those strategies would look like. And then once we understood that, we could take suitable action and implement some of those real world examples. So as you can see, there's the 3 pillars. There's the desire to reduce your overall net zero, to achieve net zero, so your overall carbon consumption, which is really an immediate thing you can do. And, that's recycling plastic, putting your cans in the right place, reducing your overall consumption by maybe switching the lights off when not in use, etc., etc. But then if we want to go even deeper, and this is when we start to look at, and I won't go into too much terminology here, but scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, these are the more intense views that one would have on how we can be net zero from the get-go. For example, you get to net zero embodied, and that's really kind of the materials you use, transportation of goods, and seeing whether people need to be where they need to be, or whether they can work from home and essentially reduce their carbon footprint by maybe driving a little less. But what that does do is it gives us an idea of what the future would look like. How can we work with individuals and pupils and students and staff to support them in that journey to net zero? And that's where the insights from some of the pilots that we've run can really help inform platforms that we are building for the future. And I'm going to share with you a fantastic story around a new school build. And by the way, it's not just about new school buildings. Very much the approach here in the 3 pillars is about how do we support existing schools and the whole retrofit of the schools that are currently working very hard to achieve net zero. So look, this is where we started, and we have to start somewhere. And just like Barry was saying, John was saying, you don't know what you don't know. So really the idea is to try and baseline what's going on. So we started off by saying to the DFE, look, Cisco do a lot more than just networking, and I do welcome you to go along to our website and take a look at the plethora of different areas in which we work. But one of those pillars is Internet of Things, IoT, a buzzword that seems to be going around everywhere at the moment. And part of that is the indoor air quality sensors that you've seen that you just saw in the last presentation that Ali showed. And we implemented those into every classroom in a particular location up and down the country. And I'll show you a little bit more about how we went into the sizing of that pilot, if you like. The idea is that we want to capture the baseline CO2 levels in a classroom, but our sensors do a lot more than that. They capture temperature, humidity, particulate matter, and the new MT15 sensor that we've recently launched supports all of those in one object, one item. And so when you start to measure whether the CO2 levels are building up in a specific place, or is it too hot in a specific place within a school environment, that degree of insight can really help staff and students to understand how they can better their environment. This is an example of a new build I'm immensely proud of. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the team that was invited in to work in this space. St Mary's was a school that tragically burnt down in 2020, and the students were hurried out of the location into temporary accommodation and have been in a myriad of different accommodations ever since. Of course, COVID hit, and unfortunately they weren't able to return to the school. It was opened, it's been opened today. So essentially 3 years on, the children have now returned to the site that was formerly their previous school, but has been redesigned and redeveloped. And the reason I'm showing you this really is because it talks about a biophilic approach to design and engineering. Now, why we're going into this? Well, because we started off small, and by understanding the environment the kids were currently in and the CO2 and some of the other schools that we've piloted and the retrofit work that we've done, we're able to directly influence and work with the architectural groups within this space to say, how do we better design buildings? So what I'm trying to do is contrast what we can do immediately in the short term, with the art of the possible what the future holds. And that's not to say that we're going to be building these schools exclusively, but certainly, as I was saying before, we're very interested in working with the education sector and understanding how best to retrofit schools to achieve the same amount of insight and intelligence. So this is a final picture I wanted to share with you, one that I've taken as of yesterday. It's a beautiful school indeed, but really does showcase the art of the possible. And by sharing this anecdote with you, I'm hoping that you can see and relate to the fact that the technology that you've heard about today, whether it's reducing your overall energy consumption, whether it's taking that first initial step towards being somewhat greener by reducing your overall carbon, and importantly, understanding what that looks like for your environment. I want you to be able to notice and relate to the fact that here is a school that we've done it to and has opened today. And we're very much looking forward to capturing the intelligence and the insights from all the sensors that we've installed here, as well as the power management devices, to see just what the outcome is. But we are extremely confident that there's going to be an overall reduction in their carbon footprint moving forward. So I'll leave it at that for now. Accompanied with the message that Suzanne will send out will be a number of links that I welcome you to explore and take a look at, so you can both understand what it is that we do, how we work with our valued partners to execute on the ground, and what that journey could look like for you. Thank you. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Sumeet. That's an absolutely beautiful school, and it's so nice to hear that it's open today. It's really fantastic news, really is. And thank you, Ali, as well, for your presentation. So I've had a few questions come in to me. So I'm just sort of going to open the floor up, and I might pick on some of the presenters to answer specific ones, if that's okay. But in terms of implementing the software into a school, how, like, is it quite invasive? How does a school start with, being able to access this technology?
I'll take that question. So yeah, absolutely. What we've tried to adhere to is make it as uninvasive as possible, ultimately because we don't want to impact delivering the core purpose of the school, which is the curriculum. But what we found during the 2 or 3 years of R&D is that there is this quite easy balance between when the school closes, and in the case of the case study that I ran through with Wrexham, all of their schools close at 8:30 p.m. So when ultimately they kind of shut and close the gates. So with them powering off the infrastructure then. However, there's complete granularity, flexibility, because we fully appreciate that colleges and schools have facilities that are open to the general public. So there needs to be that kind of granular level of control. And if I give an example of the sort of 3 trusts that we onboarded last week onto the platform, each of those were different types of power policies that we were pushing out very quickly. Most of them are very conservative, so similar to kind of what John touched on is start at sort of 30% and then sort of scale up. Whereas we've seen some education settings that have been able to power off the infrastructure for 52 to 58% of the week. But yeah, it's not evasive at all. It's very much in line with having the right balanced approach and optimizing the infrastructure based on what the curriculum requirements are, the core kind of school hours.
Brilliant. And how do you power off the infrastructure? I mean, does someone need to go in, like a staff member, go in and turn it all off? Or
no, it's a great question. So it's fully automated. So effectively, we will, like in the sessions, the sort of 10-minute sessions with those trusts last week, we work with someone from IT. We would create a power policy, and then effectively it's a set and forget. The only time that really come back to it is if we're looking, like, for example, with the Christmas period coming up, where we want to actually shut everything down from the 18th. That's when obviously IT could get involved with that. But we are actually now looking at dynamic power policies based on dates, so we can punch in term times, and then it will automatically transition between core hours during term time to then outside of term time, those 2.5 months a year, where actually we can save even more carbon as well as kilowatts. I would probably say that what we've touched on during this session has been specifically focused towards Cisco Meraki technology as a platform. So certainly when some of those questions I mentioned in my session around ask what IT are doing today is obviously asking if the Cisco Meraki platform's in place at the school. However, those questions still can be answered potentially by other solutions and vendors as well. So it's not just necessarily specifically limited to one vendor. It's more about the outcome and the principles involved.
And then on that sort of customers or potential schools, could any school contact you and have this system?
Yeah, absolutely. After this session, I'm going to send a link to kind of run through a bit of a demo and even enable it. So yeah, there's no kind of cost associated to activate the Wiser Watts solution. That's a kind of commitment that we made as a business back in February, that we wanted to provide this capability for innovation for purpose, not profit. So it's something we're committed to.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of schools out there are really happy to hear that there's no cost involved.
We're literally onboarding, like I say, one every pretty much day at the moment, because we're fortunate enough to get that kind of that interest around this.
Oh, brilliant. And alongside the sort of technology side of it, have you considered, or maybe this is a question with John and Barry, are there any sort of curriculum materials that link in what you're doing, as in can the students sort of understand what's going on?
Not at the moment, but we have been talking about this, and I think one of the really interesting things that we want to do is put this in the hands of the children, actually. And we've mentioned, alongside the work to switch power off to the parts of the network overnight, that there are also these air quality sensors which all of us, I think, have mentioned, and this has the potential to put actually what's going on in the classroom. What's the quality of the air? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is there too much CO2? Are there too many other noxious particles in the air? We want to provide a mechanism to get that intelligence into the hands of the students, the young people, so that they can actually work on this themselves. They can do something with it. They can see what's going on, and that is the capability is there. What we haven't had the time to do yet is think about how we can put this into a set of lesson planning, for example. But we're certainly keen to pursue that avenue as well.
So I can add to that, actually, and you're quite right there, John. So what we're doing at Cisco, and this is part of the initiative that I'm driving, is to build a course that is an introduction to net zero and sustainability. So much so that we can break that down and offer that as part of your delivery of teaching and learning. It's a structured approach. It's an entry-level course, but it will go on to offer you more information and point you in the right directions to expand your knowledge out. It's in the works. It'll take us a little bit longer because we're working on where we're going to house it and how it's going to be delivered to you. But rest assured, I'm working on that, and we're hoping in the second half of next year to have something to share with this audience. But in addition to that, Cisco have a Net Academy portal, which is there is no pay barrier behind that. It's absolutely free to use, and another great resource for digital skills, but the ability to then learn a little bit more about this topic and other topics that support.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely brilliant. I can see this being a brilliant students project or end of year project, or even getting students, young people aware of the different green job skills that are out there, because before I was aware of Cisco and Meraki sort of solutions, ICT, I didn't think that was green, and sustainable. And now I really believe that, that's, you have to work, sustainability and ICT have to work together for the future.
The opposite, I think most people probably think exactly the opposite, and that it's just not sustainable in any way. But, this is what I think all of us on this call, certainly from the ICT Service and Cisco and CAE, that the expression has been used, bring technology front and center into those conversations, because it absolutely can be, and it can automate so much of this, and you can provide the reporting. If we get it integrated right at the very start, this is the very start of a journey.
See, traditionally technology has been the confusing part. And I guess part of what we're trying to say on this call is it isn't. It's an enabler to allow you to really drive for your sustainable long-term strategy at your school level, your local level. But traditionally, it's been a space where people have shied away from because they thought, well, the technology is complicated, and how do I do this, and who's going to install that? And what we're trying to show you is actually this technology is not only super simple, but there's a great ecosystem of partners and certainly CAE to help you get it into the ground and up and running. So the exciting bit becomes about the reporting, understanding what the impact is on children and their educational environment, seeing what you can do to make small changes for your journey towards a greater sustainable future. And once you recognize that and see IT as the enabler, it becomes a truly exciting journey. And of course, I'd say that because I'm a technologist and I work for one. But at the end of the day, this is technology that gives you insight, and that's the key. That's the starting point, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's also why we've really mandated on anything around this specific space around Wiser Watts is making it as simple as possible. So it kind of really removes any kind of complexities out there. But what we do know is that every school, all 27,000 plus of them in the UK have a network that connects all the classrooms, and that's why really we're seeing it as the sort of foundation or the bedrock to be able to actually drive change. Even from we were talking obviously a lot about Meraki, but there's over 5,000 of those schools in the UK or England alone that have a Meraki platform that have this capability, but it's just not turned on today. So it's just operating 24/7. So trying to remove those kind of complexities, those kind of scary kind of thoughts and questions is about how do we make it simple to drive that change, which I think is exciting for me because while trusts and schools are jumping on because it is so easy to enable a power policy that starts to kick off from this evening.
And we've demonstrated this through the Connect the Classroom program. We go onto site in the average primary school with the Meraki equipment, and we might only be on site for one day to install the switches and the wireless access points, and that equipment is up and running by the end of that day. When we leave site, we're finished and the power policy kicks in, and we're decarbonising from day zero basically of that new equipment being functional within the school. So these are existing schools. These are schools that have had networking equipment that's been in place for a very long time, quite often far too long. And from the school's perspective, they've not necessarily had to actually do anything other than allow us to come in and implement this equipment, and then we can demonstrate to them the data and the information at the end of it to show them the outcomes.
Barry, that leads very nicely to my next question, which is more general, which is what is the Connect the Classroom program? Could you explain that in a bit more detail? Or if you can, sorry, I know you're not very well. Maybe.
If you don't know about it now, I'm really sorry to say. I think you may have missed the opportunity. It's not an opportunity that's been set in front of schools. The DFE, Department for Education, selected a group of schools in a number of different waves of this program based on their performance and based on education opportunity areas, education investment areas. So I don't have the actual facts right in front of me, but that's the basis of the work that went on to decide which schools would benefit from funding. So the funding to replace network equipment, so switches, which is what you plug your computer into basically, or a wireless access point, which also gets plugged into a switch. That funding, there is no more funding available. So that is something that will have to be funded by schools, or if you can find there is lots of grant funding around for sustainability projects at the moment, and I would say you need to keep an eye on those, and that's something that we're certainly doing as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, John. Thank you for that. So yeah, the DFE should have contacted the schools if they were eligible for this. Yeah,
correct. You would know by now, or your leadership team, etc., would know by now.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, John. And actually, I've got another question that's sort of more general technology focus, which is you mentioned about technology being sort of not as energy efficient now as it was 5 years ago, what would you advise for school who's looking at getting in new laptops or computers, or what's the most sustainable way? What's the things that they need to think of before they start buying products in?
Who's going to pick this up? Everyone's keeping quiet.
I'll defer to you.
Well, we can all chip in. So
yeah, let's do that.
The
better
first
now than
thing,
it was in the old days. Yeah, so it's much more energy efficient now, just to get that one correct. Sorry, much more efficient now than it used to be 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. The first thing to do with any IT equipment is to understand your needs and your requirements. That's the first thing that everyone needs to do. And then if you need some help, to talk to someone so that they can try and understand those needs and requirements, and then help you to apply the right technology solution to those needs and requirements. When you're talking about laptops, there are so many options out there. Some of them are very, very cheap, and you might not get the longer term use out of them. So that is a consideration, that you might need to replace them over a shorter period of time. You need to decide on the platform that you're using, whether it might be Microsoft centric, Apple, or Google. But a lot of the laptops, lots of the hardware does function on very, very similar hardware. So it might be the same technology within the actual laptop chassis itself. But I think if you do have questions, figure out what your requirements are, and then talk to someone that can help you to apply a technological solution to those requirements is probably the best first step.
Every vendor today should have net zero and sustainability burnt into their business. Basically, they should be thinking about this all the way through. And newer schools absolutely should be asking your suppliers and your vendors, what are they doing? What are they doing to help you as a school deliver on your net zero and sustainability targets? Yeah. Barry's point about cheap is not always best. Okay, most expensive is obviously not always best either. But finding that happy medium and making sure that, for example, some of the laptops that you might be able to buy today are, you can fix them yourselves. Actually they're designed so that an end user or your IT techs can take out a module. It might be just the screen or the keyboard on a laptop, which, as you probably know, if you look at a laptop, it doesn't look very easy to take off. But you might want to think about that. So when you're coming to your next asset replacement, which is another thing you really need to have, a strategy which should roll over 3 to 5 years, let's say, probably 5 years. You need to make sure that your laptops are fit, as Barry says, fit for purpose. So modular, that they can be replaced, that even in that production life cycle, they have net zero and sustainability built in, and that they support management platforms so that a device can be managed centrally or remotely, meaning that when you're wanting to support the device through its next 5 years, you don't always have to get somebody out to site to fix it, that a change in configuration can be done remotely. I mentioned Microsoft Intune at the very start, and that actually allows us to not have a device delivered to us first and then configure it and deliver to the school. We can get something directly from the distributor straight into the school. We tell a member of staff to press a key when they first start it up, and it will, or even not even that, and it will build it automatically to your specification, provided your IT support provider is doing that kind of stuff. We are, of course.
If I could just 20 seconds, because I'm conscious of time. I think, and I don't want to become a marketing chap myself. So the question I would ask you, or to ask your technology provider or your vendor, is, if I were to make this investment today, how will it help me 10 years from now? Challenge your IT vendor to think about that 5 to 10 year strategy. You might think, well, that's really far out, but what it will do is it will really test them to see whether what they're giving you is just functional for today and will be obsolete very quick, or whether it will stand the test of time. And we're in the game now to stand the test of time, to offer extensibility and to keep you operational and fit for purpose, not just this year or next, but 5 to 10 years. And we're very proud to stand by our 5 and 10-year licenses, because we know just very well that we're here for the long term. And that does require investment up front, but it also, as Barry was saying, you're going to need some help with figuring out those requirements. That's absolutely what the likes of Barry and John and Ali are experts at doing. So please do reach out to people like Ali, certainly as well, to get that support, and we're here to help and underpin and back them up as well. I'll leave it at that.
Brilliant, Sumeet. Thank you for that. I think that brings us to a close, and I've seen we've just run over time, but I think that's a brilliant sort of final word of advice is challenge your suppliers with what they're offering you. Ask them how sustainable they are, what their own targets are, and then, you know, as suppliers, they need to adapt and change to suit their customers. The more questions we ask, the more they need to adapt as well. But thank you so much, Ali, Barry, John, and Sumeet, for your presentations and your support and advice today. So for everyone who's joining us today, thank you as well, and thank you for those who are watching the recording. Please do get in touch. You can get in touch directly with me through our letsgozero@ashton.org email address, and then I can relay on any questions to our fellow presenters as well as they come in. But thank you, everybody. Thanks, John and everyone. Yeah.
Thanks all. Take care.
Thank you very much.